over the last year, man, you've gone through some ups and downs, and we've all been sort of following it. And I will say that I have been very consistent.
I will have your back on this. I will have your back on this.
I had you because I could see like nobody could understand, and I've seen like artists in their 40s saying stuff like, look, this comes with celebrity, he should know. But those 40-year-olds never had to live in the kind of social media spotlight that you have to deal with.
But not even that, even just my life in general. Like,
yeah.
They don't have people following them and screaming every day for them.
Yeah. Well, everybody thinks it's great. Like they
never had a public image that was perfect, you know, per se. Like when I started, they portrayed me as being this perfect kid that like no one can really hold up to. And so I had all this pressure being this guy. And for a while, I was just like, you know what? I'm not perfect. I have struggles. I have problems. And people can say, well, what problems do you have? You're a celebrity. You have millions of dollars. You're driving a Ferrari every day. But let me tell you, dude, once you get somewhere, you're going to say, hey, I got this now. What's next? Like, what else am I going to get? Like, once you get something, you always, if you can, it's like when you get a new car. I remember when I got my Ferrari, dude, and I was showing everybody. It was so special to me. It's still very special to me, but it's a different special now. It's like, yeah, I love it, but it's like I'm not opening up the glove box and showing them the glove box. Like I'm showing them the glove box in my Ferrari. That's how happy I am.
Yeah.
And like after a while, you just start. It's like, what's next? Now I want the new car. And it's not a selfish thing, but it's just human nature, I think. And once we can completely understand that, like, there was a quote Jim Carrey said. He said, I wish everyone was famous so that no one would want to be famous.
You feel the same way right now? I
feel the same way. It's just because, like, people think it's this amazing thing, and there's these pressures that no one can really understand of having to be on and having to, you know, smile and make sure you're portrayed as a certain thing when you might be having a bad day. I might be on the toaster coming up at a show and just had a fight with my girlfriend, or I don't have a girlfriend, but, but per se, or something happens where my mom or something happens and I have to come up in that toaster and I might be crying before the show or in a bad mood, and all of a sudden the toaster rises and I have to just put on this complete different thing. And yeah, it can be, it's tough, but you know, I think that I'm made for this.
Isn't it a drug though? Like, isn't it kind of intoxicating? Like, if you ever think of your life now away from it, like, you must have had thoughts over the last year, because I saw one article saying you were feeling so depressed, you're in your hotel room, you're all by yourself. You must have at one point said, I'm just going to walk away from it. If the reality of that happened, do you think that the celebrity of this is so intoxicating you could really, really walk away from it?
I do, yeah. I think I just love music so much. And for me, it was about the music. And even through that terrible time in my life, I learned so much about my artistic, creative side. And I might have been in a weird place, but every night I was going to the studio. Every night I was working on what I loved, and it showed on this album. You know, I have another #1 single, and this was all hard work that I put in. I didn't go to all these super producers and say, hey, I need you guys to write me some smashes. I'm coming back. I literally worked on what I thought was unique to me and a unique sound to myself, and I ran with it, and people are gravitating toward that. And I think if I wouldn't have spent that time, if I would have, you know, stopped doing what I loved during that time and just listened to everybody, and because I stepped away from the spotlight, I stepped away from, you know, all this stuff, but what I did was I kind of just hid in the studio and just like grinded it out. And I found people that I love to work with, found people that I didn't like to work with, I found people that I vibed with, found people that, it's really hard to really find someone who you can write with, has such an open mind and who doesn't try to steal your creativity, and you can really bounce off ideas with. And I finally found this dude named Bieber, who's super talented, who helped me write What Do You Mean and Where Are You Now? And he's just has this...
Where do you find someone like that? I mean, Craigslist?
No, it was actually organic.
Yeah.
It was actually organic. I went to the studio with someone else, and he was in the studio writing for them. And
you just happened to cross paths. It's kind of destiny kind of thing.
Yeah, and he writes R&B music, like real R&B. Like he wrote Peaches and Cream for 112, like back in the day when he was 16.
You remember that because it was back in the day.
Oh yeah, no, that's your time.
That is.
No, but
that's classic for you, vintage.
Right. No, but yeah, he wrote all this R&B music, and I was like, hey, bro, I want to do an R&B album. And he's like, what? He's like, you're a pop singer. Like I want to write pop songs for you. He's like, I'm like, no, I want to do an R&B album. And so we spent about 6 months creating this R&B album, which I released like 3 years ago, almost, right? 2 years ago, was it? 2 or 3 journals.
Journals was last year.
No, that wasn't last year.
We released it a year ago.
It's flying by, dude. You're 35 right now.
Listen, with all
whatever. You know.
He life, he would release an album yesterday and be like, I released it out 3 weeks ago.
It feels like forever ago. Anyway, so I released this little project, and it was like a creative project, and I only released it online. And so I did that for myself because I was like, I just want to do R&B music, and we did that. It did pretty well. It wasn't like a super huge album, but I wasn't planning for it to be that. I didn't do any promotion. I didn't do anything like that, and I got to do that and express myself creatively. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I want to go back and I want to incorporate this style into my pop lane, and I want to go and make some smashes. So we started like cooking it up in the studio, and we actually found Diplo and Skrillex. Scooter actually was in like a bar or a club or something and ran into Diplo, who was like, yeah, we're doing this album. We want to get Justin on it. And so we had this song, just me and a piano. And we sent that over to Diplo, and him and Skrillex messed with it and created Where You Now. And that dropped like, do, 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 do. And like, we're like, what is this? It's unbelievable. And so I called them into the studio. I was like, hey guys, I think that this could be a sound that's going to change music. And I think that I would be an awesome person if you can just trust me to take this sound and run with it. And they were like, we would love that. And so I spent the next couple months with me and Skrillex, and we just grinded in the studio, found stuff that we loved, we didn't like, and eventually we came up with Purpose.
Do you think you've had the longevity you've had because it started out so pure and it's always been about the music and not about the fame?
I think so. I think too, people understand and know that I was found on YouTube, for my talent.
Do you feel like this is the first time that you've been in control of your own music? Like, I'm sure when you're coming up, people are telling you what you can do,
right,
and maybe you're not really down with exactly the music you're putting out, but now you control it. Do you feel that way now?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I and every time I go on stage now, I'm hyped up about doing the songs that I made. And before I wasn't so hyped up. You have to play the game a little bit. I was young. I didn't really know what I wanted creatively too. So
Think you're ever going to look back at the stuff you put out now? Because I think it's an awesome album. I was telling Scooter, I don't download anything.
Yeah.
And this album is awesome. Do you think that there's going to be a couple of years from now where you're listening back to this one going, that was my sound then, but I'm so not down with that now?
Well, no, I think that music changes, and I think that we all are going to look back and say, man, that sounds dated. But I think what I did on this album is I made songs that were, if you strip them down and you just play piano with them or you play guitar, they're still beautiful songs. And it's not about the beat. It's not about, and when it's like that, I have this song called Life is Worth Living on the album, and Love Yourself. It's like, I feel like Love Yourself is going to be like free falling.
It's my favorite song on the album.
It's like in 10 years when it's like, everyone's like, play that song. And like on the jukebox and everyone plays Free Falling. I'm free falling. And then I think it's going to be, you should go and love yourself. I hope so.
We were at an event and it was playing and somebody came up and they're like, who is this? And I'm like, it's Justin Bieber. And they're like, no, it's not. And I'm like, yeah, it is.
My boy said the same thing. He's like, I was in an Uber the other day and the Uber driver's like, who's this? And he's like, this is Justin Bieber. He's like, get the out of here.